What what up, people? I am back for another video today. Doing a video I was originally going to do on Friday, but like I said, I had to talk AD5. So today we are talking about Candyman, the original, and yeah, I will be going through the sequels too. There's the two main sequels. There's three technically in the original story, and then there was that shitty BLM reboot, which I initially was originally just gonna maybe just do the main three, but fuck it, we'll rip it apart. But the original Candyman is so iconic. Tony Todd as Candyman as this, and I love that in this you don't get his full on story. So basically, you get the cliff notes, like he, if you know the story, he, son of a slave, got caught with a white woman, basically got killed for that, and then he became a legend, and basically ever since then he became a legend who, if you say his name, it's kind of like the Bloody Mary thing where you say the Bloody Mary name 3 times, she appears and kills you. It's the same thing here. And I do like that, yeah, it's more of a mystery. It starts off because you're following this student, Helen Lyle, who's dating I think like, I actually remember the actor who plays her boyfriend, who plays Trevor, he's basically like her boyfriend, and she eventually starts learning about the murders, and she works with her friend Bernadette. They start learning about Candyman, and one thing I like about this movie is how much of a slow build it is. Yeah, you do not get Tony Todd immediately. This film isn't like a slasher fest, so it's not like there's going to just be killing, kill every 5 minutes. There are killings in this movie. I think the sequels, they do ham up the kills a bit more, but in this one specifically, it is much more of it is a bit of a slow burn, but it's well made, and Helen is a good enough character to follow, and she almost starts going crazy. And then this is where she finds out about Candyman's past, and that's the one thing too about this movie. Yeah, that people always, this was the excuse that people try to use when they try to defend the shitty new one, was, oh, well, the original had a thing with race, but it's like, if you actually listen to look into what this story was originally going to be, it was going to be in England. It was going to be a white guy, like Clive Barker, who also did Hellraiser, I think wrote this movie, and he originally was going to be a white guy, but then someone suggested to change it and modernize it. So that's why it ended up becoming Tony Todd. So, and I watched it the other night, and I was thinking to myself, like, I watched it on Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. And I was like thinking, you easily, if let's say they kept him white, the movie could easily play out the same way. Probably even if you changed the setting, even like if you put it in England, the movie really could easily play out the same, because it's more about the urban legend aspect. Yeah, his origins matter, but I'm not saying that, but that's not all it is, and that's what it seems like the people who are trying to defend the shitty new one were trying to do. But yeah, this one was great. And then yeah, she starts going crazy, Helen, and she starts basically, murders start kind of happening, and it's Candyman doing it, but because they don't know it's him, she starts getting framed for murder. I like it. There's a lot with this movie, and not just a simple, like, it's just a slasher. So I definitely recommend it. It's a slow burn. I don't know about the sequels. I don't really remember the second one. I watched it, but I don't remember it, so Um, yeah, so in that scene towards the end where Candyman, you kind of, when he takes off, like, you see his coat and you see what his chest looks like, and it's like full of bees. That shit fucked me up, man. I watched this pretty young. I watched this like at 9 or 10, and it was around a little bit after I watched Chucky. So I think this may have been 9. It was a little bit after I just saw Chucky, the Chucky movies, and I remember watching this and it was like on one of the movie channels, and yeah, that part fucked me up, man. The fucking bees. And the fact that he was about to burn a baby alive, like, holy shit. So, and yeah, it's a great film. The fact that they're able to kind of combine a lot of stuff, like, yeah, Helen gets framed for murder, so it almost becomes like she has to try to, prove herself innocent kind of thing, along with being a slasher. So I think they do a really good job with the balance. Tony Todd, his voice is just so iconic. Be my victim. When he says that, it's just like, wow. So, 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 film. This is iconic. The music's great. It's eerie. The slow build. And the fact that Clive Barker wrote it, who also did Hellraiser, makes sense. Because it has that very much the same tone as the first Hellraiser. So, yeah, I definitely recommend it. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be doing 2 videos. I'll be doing Starship Troopers 3, which I was supposed to do on Thursday, and then top 11 1992 films. So anyway, let's get started on Candyman. So the film opens up. We meet Helen. She's like this student working at the university. And I do like with these kind of movies that they did a good job of, it doesn't start off like a horror film. You don't know what kind of film it's going to start off as. But then, while learning about urban legends, this is where we do get Candyman, where you kind of get an opening kill of like the story of how it works. So basically, if you speak his name 5 times, he will kill you. And so she looks into a recent murder and starts looking into the Candyman case. While there, this is where we meet her. She's married to Trevor, who's a professor at a university. And I recognize that actor. He was I'm actually watching the show right now, 24. He's like the main he's the boss of Jack. But yeah, he's in a couple things. So he was recognizable. So Helen starts working with her friend Bernadette, and they go to these housing projects to kind of check out the scene, because this is actually where, apparently, the project where it was built is where Candyman was buried. So this is where she meets a young boy named Jake, who I thought, for a kid actor, Jake was not bad. He was one of the better kid actors in this type of movie. I thought he was pretty believable, telling her story. And he tells her a story of a boy getting killed by Candyman, and it's pretty fucking brutal how he describes it. So Candyman. This is our first sighting of Candyman, but they attribute to what Helen saw as just, oh, this is just a local gangster. Um, so we get a bit more info that he has to shed blood. He has to basically kill more and more to perpetuate the legend. We find out that Anne-Marie and her pet are dead. So basically, they make it seem like it was, Candyman who did it, but they make it seem like it was her. So Bernadette, so Helen gets framed for another murder because her friend Bernadette gets murdered, killed by Candyman, pretty brutally. I don't even jump ahead. There's a scene where she's talking to like a therapist at the hospital because she ends up getting administered into a psychiatric hospital, and while talking to her therapist, he ends up getting fucking killed. Like, he gets like fucking hooked from the back, like, pretty brutally. Like, they don't, like, the bit of gore you do get in this movie, it's pretty good. And I'm just gonna reiterate, Tony Todd's performance is so fucking earth-shattering. That is why I call him Tony fucking Todd. His voice as Candyman is so iconic, and it just shows that people had no problem with a black killer. It was interesting, and the fact that his race doesn't play a role. Yes, his origin story. The second one they do kind of go more. I think it's the second one of the sequels. They go into like his past, so that definitely will have more of an effect. But in this movie specifically, it really doesn't. You could easily, if they had gone with Clive Barker's original idea of it being in England and it just being a white guy, the movie would have played out easily the same way, in my opinion. But the only thing is, I don't know if you would have had someone as good as Tony Todd, because Tony Todd made that his role. That "Be My Victim" line is just so iconic. And the fact that, he's not in this movie a lot, but they make it work. And the bit you get of him, it's worth it. He carries the screen in every fucking scene you see of him. So so before the doctor gets murdered, I should have mentioned, she summons Candyman by accident because she says his name to prove he's real, kind of thing, and it goes wrong. So she manages to escape. She then goes back to her house. This is where we find out that because there's a girl that her professor husband was kind of talking to way earlier in the movie, and it turns out she moved in with her. And this is where we get that scene where Candyman, because she runs back to that project building, and this is where we get that scene because he has her like knocked out. He puts her on her table and he shows his rib cage with like all the bees, and like the bees are coming out of his mouth. It's like, holy shit! Like, as a kid, that fucked me up. And then he takes Anthony, who's like a little baby you see throughout the film, and they end up, because the pyre is being set up and like people are going to use that to start throwing fire. He ends up throwing the baby in there and about to lock Helen in there. He ends up stabbing. But while this happens, she ends up stabbing Candyman, and Candyman does end up getting burned, but she ends up dying in the pyre too. Trevor, I'll admit, I thought they did a really. I could have, if I had one I guess, somewhat criticism. They could have done more with Trevor's character a little bit. Because I like this scene in the end, and the problem is it's in the end. But it is a well done scene where you could tell he's really guilt ridden. Like, dude, I cheated on my wife, and he's even like thinking about her coming back, but then she comes back from so he ends up going to like the bathroom and looking, and basically kind of like the Candyman thing. He says her name 5 times, and then she appears but kills him. Basically, like kind of with, I think, with a hook. And basically kills him. Then his girlfriend, the college student, finds him dead. So Candyman, Candyman is great. Yeah, it is a slow burn. And yeah, it's not a kill fest. Like, there's not like kills every scene, but this story is so good. The actress who played Helen does really good at carrying the story. Because yeah, you do follow her a lot. And I do like, you do get a bit of the story of Candyman, but they don't give you his like fucking origin, and they don't spend too long on his origin either. I think that's the other thing I like. They give you just enough, but they also spend on just enough time on it to where they don't spend the whole fucking movie on it. I don't need to spend you don't need to spend 30-40 minutes on his origin. Just say like, oh, this is what happened, and then now this is the legend. Tony Todd, yeah, would have maybe liked maybe a couple more scenes of him. Yeah, but I thought the scenes he was in, he fucking just carried. He oozed charisma. The "Be My Victim" line is just so iconic. That scene, the scene with the bugs coming out of him, the bees, is so fucked. It's like that visual. Even now, it's like, oof. Yeah, it's definitely off-putting. It's the music's good. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Is really well done. Well done acting. Movie's not too long. It's solid. Like, and the bit of kills you do get are pretty violent. They don't hold back. Like, they almost burned a baby alive, That rib cage scene alone is gnarly. So, 9 out of 10 film, 9.5 out of 10 film. We'll be watching it again. I cannot wait to watch it again, like probably closer to Halloween time. And the funny thing is, this will be on my 1992 list tomorrow. Because this came out in 1992. So, can't wait to talk about that. But other than that, definitely recommend this one. Tomorrow, like I said, Starship Trooper 3 review, and then top 11 1992 films. But other than that, I'm going to cheers out and talk to y'all tomorrow. As usual. Hold on. Alright, guys. Talk to y'all later. Candyman 2 review this Friday. Peace.